Hi everyone, my name's Simone Walker and I'm one of the Deputy Secretaries at the Department of Communities and Justice.
And I'm Joanna Quilty. I'm the CEO of the New South Wales Council of Social Service.
As you know, Joanna and I have been doing regular videos where we try to address some of the current issues impacting the sector during COVID-19. So this week we're going to provide an update on some of the things that we've mentioned in the previous videos.
Thanks, Simone. So I'll start this week by talking about NGO staff who might be feeling the weight of the crisis and in need of some support. So that's obviously frontline staff, but also others who might be worried about job security or just the sustainability of their organisation or just the crisis in general. You mentioned, Simone, that for those organisations that don't have access to an EAP program, DCJ would look at providing free access to something like that during this time. Can you give us an update on that?
That's right, Joanna. The Australian Services Union and NCOSS raised this with DCJ, and I'm really pleased to say that NGOs can now access DCJ's EAP, Employee Assistance Program services. So the Secretary of DCJ, Michael Coutts-Trotter, recently wrote to NGOs inviting organisations that don't have an EAP or a similar service to register for access, and it's fantastic. We've had an overwhelming response. I'm sure that many staff amongst the 750 plus NGOs that we contract will really benefit from this service. But I'd like to stress anyone accessing the service can absolutely be assured of absolute confidentiality. The provider will only be coming back to the department with the number of services that were provided and also a sense of what services were delivered, and the department will meet all the costs. These are such unprecedented times and NGOs are facing additional challenges and stress, especially on the front line, as you mentioned. So if you haven't already registered, I'd really encourage you to do so through the DCJ COVID-19 website.
So the next question relates to food. I think no matter what kind of service or support our community organisations have been providing, one of the critical issues has been food relief and access to supplies. We know that there have been some shortages and some problems. Can you give us an update on what's happening there?
Look, it's fair to say that food availability has been a concern since the early stages of the COVID-19 situation, and this was reflected back to us on HSNet, which is an online service directory, because we could see that the number of searches for food had tripled through that service, and that community groups in some cases were struggling to get help for those people who couldn't access food through normal means. Some of our providers like Food Bank were also suffering a couple of different problems. One, their corporate volunteers had drifted away because of safety concerns, and they weren't getting their food supplies from normal sources. So since then, the government's helped Food Bank with temporary volunteers, and the supermarket chains have come on board to really help with the supply chain. We've also seen a real change in behaviour from some of those early panic buying days that we saw. And of course, we think the federal government's Job Seeker and JobKeeper supports are also assisting. So New South Wales has funded Food Bank, Oz Harvest and the Rapid Relief Team, and last week they were all ramping up their activity to ensure a regular supply of food to community NGOs, homelessness organisations and Aboriginal communities. And we can already see that the searches for food on HSNet is dropping. So I think that we have managed to recognise what was happening in the community, see what was happening in the marketplace and put some solutions in place. Great.
Can other NGOs sign up with one of those big food relief charities to be part of the distribution network and to make sure that food is getting to those who are really in need? It might be a question I need to take up with those organisations, but yeah, just wondering if you know.
I think that'd be a good one to take up with the individual organisations. I know in the early stages that some of them were putting a hold on new agencies getting involved, but I think that'd be a good thing to put to Food Bank and Oz Harvest.
Thanks, Simone. NCOSS will take that on. You mentioned earlier on food searches on HSNet, and that's obviously the government service directory. Just wondering whether you're tracking searches more generally for food and other services and what that information or what that data is telling us.
Yeah, so there's been significant interest in food and certainly other services during COVID-19, such as domestic and family violence and housing. So we've certainly started to track things that are happening on HSNet. And we're also working with the vendor Info Exchange to track data from New South Wales across both HSNet and Ask Izzy, which is a federal service. What we know is that food, DV, housing and legal services are coming up, and we're producing some weekly dashboards that are available on our website. It's not validated statistical data, but by looking at what people were searching for this time last year, we can get a real sense of the potential need that's out there. So what does this tell about the searches? So certainly, as I said, there was an increased searches for food. So now we've published week 5 of the dashboard, and interestingly, as I mentioned before, the food tracking has started to come down. But we are seeing both DV and legal services, after some fluctuations, a bit of an increase there. So we'll be able to look at the trends over time.
It's great to have that data publicly shared and to be able to get a sense of where demand is happening in the community. Can I ask, is HSNet primarily for service providers or is it also for the general public?
My understanding is that both service providers and the general public can access HSNet, but we do rely on service providers to update their information through HSNet, and that's a really important function to make sure that what people are searching for is accurate. So Joanna's put a whole range of other questions to us that are great questions and that we really want to answer. So we're going to do some of those in text so that we can keep these videos relatively short. We'll also be moving the videos to fortnightly as we move from a react to respond phase of dealing with COVID-19. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, Joanna.